You wake up with a vision, but by noon, the screen of your phone has consumed your ambition. This is not a failure of character, it is a battle against your own nature. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, faced the exact same distraction. Today, we dismantle the cycle of delay using 3 ironclad rules from his personal journals. It is time to reclaim your focus. To conquer procrastination, we must first define it. To the Stoics, procrastination was not merely laziness. It was a form of self-betrayal. Aurelius wrote that you are leaving your own path to follow the whims of others or the comforts of the moment. You are essentially hiding from your potential. When you delay, you are telling the universe that your purpose is secondary to your temporary comfort. Why do we avoid the hard work? We avoid it because we project it into the future. We imagine the fatigue, the complexity, and the judgment. Aurelius had a solution for this: limit yourself to the present. He argued that the mind becomes overwhelmed when it tries to live in the future. By focusing only on the immediate task, you strip away the fear that fuels your desire to procrastinate. Rule number 1 is the atomization of duty. Aurelius often reminded himself to look at tasks as they truly are, stripped of their intimidating exterior. When you see a large project, your brain flags it as a threat. Instead, break it into tiny, microscopic actions. If you cannot write a book, write 1 sentence. If you cannot work out for an hour, do 1 push-up. Focus strictly on the current step. This rule works because it bypasses the amygdala, the part of the brain that triggers anxiety. When the task feels small, the brain stops screaming, "Run away." Aurelius treated his duties as a craft. He did not ask if he felt like leading an empire or writing his meditations. He simply did the next right thing. The feeling of success usually comes after you start, not before. Stop waiting for motivation. Now, let's move to rule number 2, the discipline of discomfort. Aurelius famously stated, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, 'I have to go to work,' as a human being." He understood that comfort is the enemy of excellence. When we procrastinate, we are almost always seeking a state of ease. We want to avoid the friction of starting something new. The Stoic approach is not to punish yourself, but to reframe your relationship with friction. Start your day with a Stoic discomfort ritual. It could be a cold shower, skipping your morning coffee, or doing the most difficult task immediately upon waking. By choosing discomfort, you shatter the illusion that you need a perfect, comfortable environment to be productive. You teach your brain that discomfort is not a warning sign. When you practice voluntary discomfort, you build a mental callus. Procrastination thrives on the fear of discomfort. If you can voluntarily face cold or physical fatigue, the mental effort of starting a project feels like a breeze. Aurelius practiced this often. He would eat simple meals and sleep on a hard mattress, all to ensure that if fortune turned against him, he would not be fragile or incapable of action. This discipline forces you into a state of premeditatio malorum. You anticipate the friction and you welcome it. Instead of saying, "I'll do this when I feel energized," you say, "I will do this while I feel tired, and that is exactly how I will train my resolve." You stop being a slave to your moods. Your tasks become the master of your day, not your changing whims. The third and perhaps most potent rule is the Memento Mori catalyst. Aurelius kept this thought at the center of his life: you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Procrastination relies on a hidden, dangerous assumption, the assumption that you have an infinite amount of time. You trick yourself into thinking tomorrow is a guaranteed asset. But tomorrow is not a currency you possess, it is a promise that may never be kept. When you put off a meaningful task, you are betting against the inevitable truth of mortality. Aurelius didn't think about death to be morbid, he thought about it to be alive. By recognizing that your time is finite, every moment takes on a profound, sharp clarity. The weight of doing it later becomes unbearable. Ask yourself, if this were the last hour of your life, would you be spending it scrolling through social media? Would you be making excuses about your lack of energy? Or would you be engaged in the work that defines your legacy? The Memento Mori rule is a violent awakening. It forces your hand. It turns the later into now by removing the safety net of an infinite future. Let's integrate these 3 rules into a practical framework. Start your morning by intentionally choosing one small, uncomfortable task. Atomize it into a 5-minute action block. Then, look at the clock and remember, this is a segment of my life that will never return. Suddenly, the act of procrastinating feels like a theft. You are stealing from your own limited existence. Aurelius understood that your reputation is built on your actions, not your intentions. Procrastination is a lie you tell your future self. It is a debt that gathers interest. Every hour you spend avoiding the work, you pay a tax in the form of anxiety and self-loathing. You start to view yourself as someone who doesn't finish things. This identity becomes a cage you build for yourself. The Stoic path is one of radical accountability. You must stop blaming the world, your stress, or your busy schedule. These are merely external factors. Your choice to engage or disengage is the only thing truly yours. As Aurelius said, it is not events that disturb people, but their judgments about them. If you judge a task as too hard, you will procrastinate. If you judge it as an opportunity for growth, you start. Consider the environment you have built. If you have constant notifications, your phone is a master of your attention. A Stoic controls their environment to protect their focus. Turn off the noise. Remove the temptations. Create a workspace that is as empty as the mind you want to cultivate. You cannot win a battle if you have voluntarily surrendered your best weapons before the fight even begins. As we reach the end, remember that you do not need to be perfect to be a Stoic. You only need to be consistent. If you procrastinate today, do not waste energy on self-pity. That is just another form of procrastination. Recognize it, label it, and return to the present moment. Begin again. The ability to reset your focus is the true superpower of the disciplined mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations for himself, not for an audience. It was a manual for his own failures and successes. Take that same approach. Keep a journal of your own resistance. When you find yourself delaying, write down the reason. You will likely see that the reason is almost always the same: fear, laziness, or a false sense of comfort. Name the enemy to defeat it. Procrastination is the thief of your potential, but the power to stop the theft lies within your own hands. By atomizing your tasks, choosing discomfort, and keeping death in view, you align your daily habits with the highest version of yourself. You stop living for the promise of tomorrow and start building the reality of today. You are a human being born for action, not for rest. Thank you for joining this exploration of Stoic wisdom. If these 3 rules resonated with you, I challenge you to apply them for just 24 hours. See the difference in your mental state and your output. If you found value here, consider subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the philosophy of the ancients. Stay disciplined, stay present, and conquer your day.